I don't know my wife. My wife. You the internet person? No, I ain't no daggone internet person. Oh, I don't know how to work the internet. You the internet person.
You the IT guy. Don't blame your wife. It's you. It's your business.
Oh really? Oh, let's get up in this tub.
I'm
What's
gonna
going
take
on,
Miss.
Ram?
I'm gonna take Miss Haskins' side on that one.
That's some BS. Let's go. Dan, I can't see you. Let's go, buddy.
I'm here, brother. I'm editing this thing while I'm waiting for you to go live.
We live right now.
Oh,
We've been live. What's going on, Round Up Homie? This is the boy Haskins. I am in the building with. Hey, you know what I like about talking to you, Dan? You know, I hear Welby. He's like people living their best life away from home. I am honored that I can live my best life at home. I'm like, I don't gotta be on the beach. I don't gotta do. I'm like, dude, I'm just home. Shit, what the heck?
you know.
What do you talk about that, Dan?
Oh, Chris, man, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. But before we go on, somebody's asking for you to post a link to your subject to course recording.
Oh, somebody wants to hear too?
Yep.
Okay. Take your
So
pants
what
off.
do I think about that? The reality, I heard there was a guy who I was watching an interview. I can't remember his name, but he was a very wealthy man, self-made millionaire, and he was. Somebody asked him, at what point did he realize he was wealthy? And this is the guy that actually came up with Kinko's, the concept of Kinko's, and then sold it. I think he may have sold Kinko's to FedEx, if I remember correctly. But he said it wasn't a monetary number that made him feel wealthy. What made him feel wealthy was his adult kids still wanting to come home and spend time with him and his wife. And what you just said struck to the bone, because we all have different ways of feeling wealthy. And to me, that's what makes me feel wealthy. My kids still want to come home and spend time with mom and dad, and still want to go on vacation with mom and dad, and still want to go out to dinner with mom and dad, I'm a very wealthy man.
It's funny you mentioned that because I'm still trying to figure out these kids, man. But anyway, we can get to that. Out. Oh, the lease option, y'all put it in the bio. I'll put it in my description. Then let's talk about that landlord that caught his place on. What's going on with that? I know it's right in your neck of the woods.
So this happened in
Sorry about
South
that.
Brooklyn. This landlord who hadn't collected rent from this tenant. It's a couple with 6 kids apparently. Hadn't collected rent since January. I am going through a court case right now with an eviction, trying to kick out a commercial tenant, not even a residential tenant. The average time right now to kick out a tenant in the city of New York is taking about a year and a half, if you're lucky. So this particular person got frustrated as a result of the judicial system, I assume, where he's not getting any relief from the judicial system. Has a tenant living there for 11 months without paying no rent and no sight in getting them out, right? So out of frustration, I assume, or anger, he went and torched the stairs going up to the apartment, leaving them no egress to get out through the front of the building. So the couple were throwing their kids out the second floor window to bystanders or neighbors. So this landlord, forget that he lost his house at this point, he just lost his freedom for God knows how many decades, because there was 8 people in that apartment. That's 8 counts of attempted murder or manslaughter. I don't know what they're going to call it, but he's got it. But again, I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner in the city of New York, because there's no relief for landlords in the city of New York.
Only relief y'all got is go get in the 8 ball.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, so I tell people all the time, you want to buy the city of New York, you're insane.
Dan, help me understand. Did they give any of the backstory on him lighting the place on fire?
No, they just said it was the fire marshals that locked him up, that he lit the fire, and that he lit the stairs going up to the second floor, which is which would have been their escape route. Oh, he wanted to. That's dead scare. Like I want to, because there's no way he didn't know they were in the apartment. Like you walk in the hallway, you can hear six kids. I don't give a. You know, it's hard not to hear six kids.
You can hear
Am
my
I
kid from the street. The street's 20 feet away from my house. So you can hear my,
exactly? So how could you not know that the kids were in the house, right? Especially six kids.
but
So
Dan,
you know,
uh,
he obviously wanted to kill him. That's some deep anger right there.
let me tell you something, Dan. I learned something. A mentor of mine. I just put one of my rental properties on the market last week. I would just to bring this home. Our minds are like a circle, right? And with new tenants, if you have a new tenant, this is one of my new landlords. If you got a new applicant that's taking up a lot of space in your mind before you put them in, it was so weird. Like this particular tenant, I wanted to go with them. They were perfect, Section 8, perfect. They only had two dependents. I'm like, man, this is great. But the lady was taking up so much space in my mind. I'm like, you're not even my resident yet, and you taking up all this space. I'm not doing this.
Nope, nope.
I'm not doing it. I just can't do it, man. I'm like $2,000 a month. It's just I would rather not have the money. And further, I want to ask you about him. How much space were these people taking up from his mind to do that, Dan?
I
Can you
can't. I could only
imagine?
imagine because I've been through it, especially in the beginning part of my career.
That's
Uh,
the word.
yeah, you take it personal in the beginning part of your career. Now it's like it's part of the business that we're in. It's sad, but landlords are people too, and you never know what people are going
Yeah,
through.
won't
You
get no
don't.
love, man. Won't get no love.
No,
Won't get
you
no
don't.
love.
Uh,
So,
and you know, it's funny that you said that, Chris.
what?
So this is a rental application. These are my notes. These are just my notes
Mm-hmm.
on an app that I'm doing today.
Yeah,
As you guys can see how thick this app is. This
yeah,
is not. These are all the documents they got to give me, right?
yeah.
And it's a couple. So these are my notes on my questions that I'm going to be asking them. Um, guys, you have to be extremely thorough when you're renting the apartment
You got
or the
to.
house. You know, I did a post. It was actually a cut from the lunch and learn that Kris Haskins and I did last year in New Jersey. I just came across this footage and I totally forgot I had it, so I cut it up. And I'm basically saying that in the beginning part of my career, I was constantly worried about, all right, if I didn't get that apartment rented, it was going to cost me $500 a month out of my pocket. And I was always worried about paying the mortgage, paying the mortgage, paying the mortgage. It's costing me 500. It's costing me 500. It's costing me 500. The reality is that if you rent it to the wrong person, it's going to cost you a whole lot more than $500 a month. And it's going to cost you a whole lot more months of paying $500 a month than if you just wait to get the right person. Because then you have attorney's fees, you have to pay the marshal's fees or the sheriff, depending on where you're at. You got to pay the warrant fees, the court fees, and then you got to go in there and clean the mess they left you behind. And they're going to leave you a mess because they're pissed off that you got them out.
That's so crazy, man. It's weird how things change, isn't it, Dan? Your perspective can change on vacancies.
Like this,
I talked to new,
overnight, like this.
I talked to new investors, and they're like, they're looking for a contractor to start tomorrow, or they're looking for the tenant to move in tomorrow. I'm like, we got to just reframe your mindset because, you know, on a grand scale, I know investors that would sit on the house for a year and just depreciate it. I don't even want to go there with tonight's conversation, but I'm just saying, sitting on an empty house, y'all, is part of your strategy. It is part of your strategy, y'all. So I know it may sound like we crazy, but I promise you, let that place sit.
Listen, the reality is this. If you wait for the right tenant, if you don't get the right tenant, I remember I had an apartment. It was $3,300, I think, a month in Park Slope, Brooklyn.
Good
I
God.
had over 70 applications for that apartment.
Uh-huh.
Sat empty for 6 months.
Damn, Dan, you just a... Whew. How in the
I,
world?
especially in New York, you need to wait for the right. Oh, and by the way, you tenants out there that think you got over on your last landlord, kudos to you. Guess what? That's because you haven't come across Kris Haskins or Dan Borrero.
So
Because
let me go ahead. Let me tell you. I want to mention something. So this one lady last week, she sent me her landlord paperwork to reach out to her last landlord. So everything was email. I thought that was odd, right? So but let me ask you, we're live. Like I want to ask you, Dan. So I sent the email to the guy, Mr. Whoever. He sent it back. Yeah, lady's great, no problems. And I even let her move in with no security deposit. I'm like, okay, cool. I sent an email back then. I said, "Are you the owner or are you the manager?" So I had already done my I already know who the owner is. The email comes back. I'm the owner and the manager. I'm like, well, who is Mr. Smith and John and Jane Doe and oh, they work for me. How
so
is this
why is their name on the deed and yours is? Yeah. Guys, well, I tell you what I do. I don't want to speak to the current landlord. Because the current landlord's going to tell you they're great. He wants to get rid of their headache. They're awesome. The previous landlord, the landlord that got rid of them already, they're going to tell you the truth. If they were good or bad, they're going to tell you the truth because they're not a headache to them no more. But the current landlord's going to tell you, yeah, they're great. He wants let you take that headache.
I've had some landlords tell me the truth, Dan. I've had a few guys tell me the truth.
Well, if you call me, I'll tell you the truth. If you call me, I'm going to tell you the truth.
We're laughing at this because there's no reason to get mad. I mean, it's just really not.
Look, it
Question.
is because when you own only one property or two properties and you have
Oh,
that door,
you be,
it's
oh,
financially devastating.
yeah, you'd be hot. That's when you start burning some shit down. You worked your whole life, you saved up, you bought that one house. This is your retirement, and you gonna do this to me? Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
feel you.
hard. I got to tell you, I'm surprised it hasn't happened more often.
It's this country, man. It's the
No, now if
politicians, man.
you go to different parts of the country. Like if I'm in Florida, I get rid of a tenant. The most it took me was like 3.5 months.
Hmm.
Right? I could live with that, but a year and a half or a year
Yeah,
going without no rent,
that's criminal.
that's
Thanks, Edward. Ed, thank y'all. Hit that like button, and please, who has questions? I will put my subject to training workshops. In fact, we have it on sale to the end of the night. So if you guys want that, just put a comment in, and I'll put it in the description when we get done.
so.
Give me
Chris,
some questions.
let's talk about that other case, man, that you
Yeah,
brought up.
Pfizer Burnett. We have. I hope. There comes sometimes. Dan. It's just as I look at my life. One of the things that really changed my life was taking action back in 2004. There's certain things that change the trajectory of industries in our lives. And I really feel like NAR losing a case 1.7 or 8 billion is really going to change the scope of real estate there. But when I think about it though, I want you to talk. If the seller doesn't pay the buyer's real estate agent, how would the buyer's real estate agent get paid?
Well, why don't let's take a step back, Chris. Let's explain to everyone what that case says because they may
Okay,
not be
so
aware.
it's a whole bunch of things, but the premise is if I'm selling my house, Dan's the buyer. I have to pay the seller and the buyer, right?
So let's suppose we agree to 6% interest, 6% commission if we're the seller.
Three and
That
three.
6% gets split between the selling agent and the listing agent. So essentially, we're paying both sides,
That's right,
right?
the seller.
If you're the seller, if we're the
I'm the
seller.
seller. You the buyer right here. You the buyer. I'm the seller.
So when Chris at the closing has to pay a commission of let's say 5% or 6%, and
Whatever.
that commission gets split between my agent that represented me because I'm the buyer, and Chris's agent that represented him with the listing.
Mm-hmm.
So now the court came out and said, "Tell him, Chris."
So the main thing that I'm trying to wrap my mind around is, I never forget the statement. It's not even logical in any business transaction for the adversary to get paid by the opponent. So I'm responsible for, if I'm the seller, I'm responsible to pay Dan's agent to negotiate against me. I am paying both sides. So we're trying to figure out where is this going to go, because all the money comes out of the seller's pockets.
Right. So the court case, my understanding, and guys, remember, we're not attorneys, but my understanding is that it says if I have a if I want to use a realtor to negotiate to buy Chris's house, I now got to pay that realtor a commission.
Wow. Wow.
But
Big Dan.
I just had this conversation today with Jose, who's one of my realtors that I work with in Staten Island, and he laughed and he goes, "Man, it's not going to affect you one bit." And I says, "I don't think so either, but tell me why."
But you
And he
Dan
said, "Because you
Borrero.
right." He said, "You're going to go right to the listing agent,
Oh
so
yeah,
you
you're
don't
right.
have to pay a realtor." He goes, "It's going to affect the people that are not in the business that don't feel comfortable negotiating on their own behalf because they don't know all the nuances and the terminology and the minefields to avoid." So I was like, he's probably right. Yeah, he is right. Because people like Chris and I, we ain't gonna hire an agent to go negotiate on our behalf. We're gonna go directly to the listing agent and negotiate ourselves.
Well, I don't think these lives here, Dan, are not even meant for you and me. I mean, I don't do this for you and me. I mean, I could care less about. I mean, obviously I love you, but I'm like, I don't talk to these things because it's of us. I'm talking about to the masses. I want to
Right.
know
But to
what's
the
going to happen to
masses,
the
I think
masses.
so the masses, they're gonna have to pay.
How does that look, Dan?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I personally believe this is gonna be a whole lot more automated. Our industry, that side of the industry, is gonna get a whole lot more automated where people are gonna be able to even go look at a house without even using a realtor. If it's an empty house, think about it. With all the AI technology, I'm surprised it's not out there yet. And maybe it might be, where you have a website. I like this house. I want to go look at it at 10 o'clock at night. That's the time I get out of work. That's when I can go look at it. I type in all my information. I send them a picture of my driver's license. The driver's license gets verified. Now they know who I am. They send me a one-time code to go in at that time if the house is vacant, right?
Mhm.
Did I need a realtor? They know who's in there, and they're gonna have, and they might even have cameras in the house, right?
They got face recognition, man. You can go right in when you show up, man. That's nothing.
Exactly. So I personally think the real estate business is going to go through a huge transformation that's already in the process of. This
So
may
speed
be the
it up.
catalyst to push it that much further.
Let's speed it up, man. Let's
Yeah,
speed it.
it's just like COVID, for instance. We've always had Zoom. We've always had technology where people could work from home. What did COVID do? COVID-19. It just accelerated that process.
Yeah,
They're estimating
they're already
that
doing it.
in New York City, there's 33% less foot traffic in the streets as a result of people working from home hybridly 3 to 4 days a week now versus none, where they had to go into the city to work every day. So there's
Mm,
a lot of commercial space that is suffering as a result of not having that foot traffic,
I believe
especially
it.
if they're in the food business and the beverage business.
Yeah, I think we are in store for something huge coming down the pipeline. And I even think that this may be like, for instance, if you're a buyer, there may be like a new loan service. I'm not saying it's all bad. I think it's going to be good. Just in instance, Dan, if you're a buyer, they might have a new loan to pay. It might have a new loan that will a substitute or that will compensate you to pay the realtor. You never know what could come out of this, man. Subsidize.
It's gonna be a lot. Whoever gets most creative and thinks out the box is gonna be the winner.
We got some questions here, Dan. Let's see, 1 second. Thank y'all. Put your questions in, Cheryl. I got Cheryl's on the ball. Cheryl, sad landlords are people too. We are people. Gosh darn it, the heck. Do either of you gentlemen use a property manager? Dan,
I do not. I manage my own properties.
I don't want people to think. Let's stay here for a minute, Dan, because I think when I first got started, I saw this vision in my head: buy a piece of real estate, get a property manager, then go to Jamaica and let the property manager manage the rental property, get the rent, and you chill it.
What do you say that again?
When I when I first got into business back in '04, I had this vision in my head that I could buy a house and then go hook them up with a property manager. And the property manager would make sure all the rent was paid and manage the tenant, and I would just be able to go to Jamaica and do whatever I wanted to do.
Uh, I got to tell you the truth. There is some truth to that, though, but you're not maximizing the profits.
What's the truth of that? Hold up, Dan. What about the property manager that's going to take your money and not do the repairs?
Well,
What
that's
about
the
the?
thing, right? It's all about. There are some property managers out there that actually do their job.
Yeah, but you ain't gonna find them on the first try.
No, it's very difficult to find them actually, and we're going to be covering that on managing, the ultimate guide to landlording when Kris and I come out with that course next quarter. But essentially, there's a skill set to finding that property manager, and but this is the thing: property manager is not going to negotiate the way you're going to negotiate, and you better be able to manage your property manager. And before you hire a property manager, you should have been doing it yourself, so that when you get the wool pulled over your eyes. Because otherwise, they're just going to lie to you, right? Like if they say to you, "Yeah, to replace that faucet was $600," but it really costs 190 because you've done it. You're in a position to argue and say, "You know what? I got to pull my properties from this person because they've just robbed me $400. If they robbed me $400 on that, what are they going to rob me? What else are they robbing me on?" Right? But you're not going to know that unless you've done it. So I always
Yeah,
recommend that you be your own manager first. You later on, and look, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm considering on getting a property manager
me
in
too.
about another 5 more years,
Me too.
because I want to start enjoying more of my life. I'm 60 years old. I ain't got another. I'm on. I got a lot less birthdays coming than I've had than in the past, right? So I want to enjoy what's there. But the difference is that it's going to be very difficult for a property manager to pull the wool over my eyes or Kris Haskins' eyes, because
Oh,
we've done this. We know what it is.
Dan, tell my roundup family about the tenants, not the good property managers, the ones that you got to go through to get to the good ones. Tell them about the tenants that the property management is going to put in your house.
Oof. I guess you'd see. So look, the reality is this: property managers get paid when they put in a bad tenant or good tenant.
Either way, they're like
Unless you
they're like the fund manager where you buy a stock and they get a fee every time you buy a stock.
whether the stock makes money, the fund makes money or not, they get paid. However, there
Crazy.
are some property managers, if they're as good as they say they are, will allow you to put a caveat into the contract that penalizes them for not doing their job.
Now, see, that's some shit you wouldn't know unless you Dan Barrero.
Well, no, unless you've been in the business. And this is why I highly recommend, if you're going to get into this business, be your own property manager for a little bit,
Yeah,
get some experience. Because even when you hire a property manager, you got to manage the property manager.
manager, manager. Dan, we could get some questions, but Dan, I had a friend of mine hired a property manager to put a tenant in there. I'm like, I already know where this is going. I don't want no part of it. Long story short, a year later, I went back in there. They destroyed the house. They destroyed the house. I'm like, I knew this was coming.
Look, the reality is this: when I property managers are good to an extent, right? When I interview a property manager, if they don't have a minimal of 75 doors under management, I won't even consider them.
Yeah, that's a good point,
And
Dan.
and and let me explain why. I know this for a fact because I do it. If you have less than 75 doors, you can't afford people to on payroll. You can't afford somebody to manage
Full time.
the phone calls, schedule the repairs. You can't afford to have a handyman on service. You're not in a position to push your weight around when you call that electrician, that carpenter, the painter, the roofer. So when you have more than 75 doors, and I call that electrician, he's going to put somebody else's job on the back burner to come and do my job because of,
Yep.
because of because of the quantity of business I'm giving him. And if he does it, he's opening up the door to his competition because I'm going to call for somebody else. And I may like that other person more than I like him.
They don't want that.
They don't want that. So 75 is the magic number on doors that they need to have under management, just to be able to afford the workers they need, in addition to be able to push their weight around with vendors. So that's one of the things I do. The other thing is, yeah, tell me what properties you're managing. Let's go drive by them. I want to walk the hallways. I want to see how you keep the garbage cans, if the grass is cut. Let's go to the basements. Let's go to the yard. Let me go check the roof to see how the gutters look.
Wow, nice. Eric Bellamy, what up, E? I wonder, Dan, I'm really, really teetering on coming up there to see you before Christmas, man. I want to do a lunch and learn up there. I
Let's talk
wonder,
about.
I wonder, will buyers agents fee be considered when qualifying them for the purchase? That is a great question.
That's a great question.
I think we're gonna have to deal with that next year.
It's gonna be interesting.
B, I want to build new homes. Okay, to sell. All right, but I'm not sure how to get started. I'm in Winston-Salem. Do you have any suggestions for how I can get started or who I could talk to? Dan?
I've always stayed away from the building side, so I don't want to give any. That's not what I do.
Yeah, I've done. Dan, and that we do new construction all the time. However, before I do any of that stuff, if you just go to my channel and type in new construction house flips, well, you could I got the 8 biggest mistakes I made. I wouldn't even get, like, if you go start new construction right now, I would do all recon for the rest of the year. Finding the builder, getting a plan, getting a house plan that builder knows front and back. But yeah, just go to the channel, man. Type in new construction house flips. And I'll go through the whole thing. D Storm, I think it would take longer for seller to sell their house. What is the incentive for the buyer's agent to bring qualified buyers to purchase the home? I agree. What is the incentive?
There is no incentive.
Right.
I think companies like Zillow are the ones that are going to make the most money, because now you're going to go to Zillow, you're going to see who the listing agent is, and you just call directly the listing agent, right?
It's gonna be,
So Zillow, for those of you that don't know, Zillow charges per zip code, right? So if you want to be a real estate agent on Zillow and you want to be the top three that come out when they click on that address,
gotta
you got
pay.
to pay. You got to be willing to pay the most per click for that particular zip code. So
Mhm.
companies like Zillow and Trulia, they're going to make a shitload of money as a result of this, in my opinion, as a result of this new
Mm.
judgment that came out.
D Young says, "Thank you for our services." Thank you, D Young. Thank you for your attention. Y'all smash that like button. Give Dan Barrero USA Land Ventures a follow over there on his YouTube channel. Is that what it is, Dan?
Yep, USA Land Ventures.
Yeah. 4C Anders, approve the tenant and not solely on the manager. Yeah, you got to approve both of them joints.
Listen, there's not a tenant that comes into one of my apartments that I don't approve. My realtors show the apartments. My realtors send me the application, and then I literally dissect the application, come up with my list of questions. If I even like the application, otherwise it goes in the shredder. If I'm going to consider it, then I come up with my questions. These are two different ones, right? And then what I do is I then do the phone interview. It's not even a phone interview. I'd rather do a Zoom interview so I could see their body language, how they dress. I prefer to do it at night because at night they're usually at home, and that gives me a view of how they're living, right? Is the place a mess? Is it neat? Is it clean? What kind of furniture they have? All this gives me an indication to their personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
People tell me they don't have a pet, and then all of a sudden I hear a dog barking, you know. So
What do you do then, Dan?
sometimes I'll call them out on it. Sometimes I just decline it. I just call the realtor, say I'm not taking them. It depends on my mood at the time.
Your mood. Hold up. You got a good mood sometimes? Give us a thumbs up, y'all. Is it D Storm wants to know, is it possible to self-manage properties in other states? That's Borrero right there.
Absolutely. Who's that question?
That was D Storm 2.0.
Okay, I thought that was Storm from Brooklyn.
No, I don't think so.
So yeah, I mean, look, it's all about. So I invested out of state, but I was already managing my properties in New York for about 10 years before I started buying to manage over in a different state. So I took my skill set that I had already sharpened over the last 10 years and developed a team in a different state. And I'll even tell you guys where I'm at. I'm in New Jersey as well as in Central Florida, where I own a lot of doors in Central Florida. So I took that same concept. One of the biggest things that helped me was technology. So I took out, I'll share with you guys. This is a very simple tip. I took out an ad, and then I just put an ad in Craigslist, right? And I was looking for stay-home moms. And a stay-home mom, I would pay them $50, and I trained them while I was there. And I would say, you need to come with me to about 3 or 4 different properties. By the time we finish, you'll know what to do. So when I call that stay-at-home mom, and they usually go like after they drop off the kids, or before they go back to when they're going to pick up the kids from school. Before that, they're going to go to the property while my guys are working, and I'm going to do a FaceTime, a live FaceTime, and they'll also send me pictures. So I give them a punch list of everything I want pictures of. So I want pictures of underneath the sinks. I want to see if it's galvanized pipe waistlines. We're going to change that to PVC. If I want to see if it's copper, I'm going to change it to PEX. Why? Because in Florida, the acidity of the water in Central Florida creates pinholes in the copper. Right? I tell them, send me a picture of the of the serial number, model number on the water heater and the boiler and the AC unit and the AC handler, because with that I know exactly when it was installed and how many more years of warranty it has, right? And then when my guys are actually doing work, they go and they do FaceTime, and I'll say, bring the camera closer to that corner, or let me see the top of the counter, or go to the left of the counter. So it's like I'm there, and all it cost me was $50.
That's
So if they
cool.
were there 3 times, it cost me $150, but I never had to leave my office.
I like that.
So, if you want to manage, you have to first learn how to create a team, and then how to interview that team, and understand this. This is really important. Your team is constantly going to change personnel.
That's true.
It's never going to stay the same. It may stay the same for a few years, but contractors are people, realtors are people. Some people
Everything changes,
go
man.
through divorces. Some of them get sick. Some of them find other better opportunities elsewhere. Sometimes it's a personality conflict. Sometimes they think they could do it better than you because they think you're making all this money. Let me go make what the money he's making, right? So you constantly got to be changing your team members, right?
Yeah.
So remember that.
Okay, we got here. Yassine, could you explain how homes appreciate after a number of years or depreciate?
Well, Rashid, if my grandma, my wife's parents bought this house in 1963 for $3,000, $3,500. The house sold. They sold it. They sold it. I think in the '80s for like 145,000, and now the house just resold again for close to $1 million.
Oh my God.
So that's what happens. It's called inflation, guys.
Yeah, I want Yazin to know that it's not necessarily that the houses are going up, because a house is the same house. It's so weird when I ripped out that money part from real estate. We all mix it together. When you take the financing out of real estate, you can look at real estate so differently, dude. Isn't it, Dan? I mean, I can look at it like it's just. I mean, people are like, oh, it's a house. I'm like, it's just a house. I mean, I don't even. So it's not that the houses are going up, yes. It's actually that the dollar value is going down. Okay, so it's the same house.
That's it.
Nice.
Listen, the economy goes like this. But this is how it goes. It starts down here, waving, and every time it goes out, it just keeps going up and up and up. That's just like, listen, I bought my first brand new car in 1982. 1982 for $7,000. Chevy Cavalier. Can you buy a brand new car today? The cheapest shit you could buy today. I had vinyl seats. I thought I was a man because I had air conditioner, but I had the roll down windows, right? But I had air conditioning and I had a badass radio,
That's
right?
crazy.
But the point is, you know, it's inflation. That's what it is.
Go up, yeah.
Just
That's
goes
why
up.
you need. We call it hedging. We hedge by owning real estate. When the value of real estate seems to go up, what's really happening is the dollar's going down. So everything else is going. Everything's going up, even real estate. So your dollar's going down. So it gets
Including
beautiful.
rent, right? So in 1985, I was paying $350 rent. I actually owned the building that I was actually renting in. Today, I own that building, and I collect. And that for that same apartment, I'm collecting $2,600 a month.
That's cool right there.
That I used to live in as a renter for $350 a month.
All right, Little Miss Chocolate Thunder. I'm in the market to own a home and would like to know if you help your tenants achieve homeownership at the end of their lease.
That's a Kris Haskins question.
Miss Chocolate Thunder, baby, we do lease options. I can't get into it tonight, but we provide home ownership for people that can't necessarily go out and get a loan. Rent to own, yes, we do that. B, thanks for what you've been watching the videos. Tips on how to find and vet a builder. Oh yeah, that's my favorite.
That's a Kris Haskins question.
We've been on here 40 minutes. I could go all night on this one, but just go to my channel, just type in new construction houses. You'll get my 8 steps. But in order for you to find a builder, man, you're gonna have to find a guy that has a house plan already. Do not go to a custom house builder to go do a flip. He's gonna burn through all your money, man. So let me show you my house, right? When we just built. This is what you call custom. You see this here?
Yep,
This
those are shadow
here, really?
boxes.
This shit here? You see this shit? This is what's gonna murder all your money. Crown. Look over my doors.
Yep,
Look at this. We got 20-foot ceilings. I got crown going all the way around. You see this stuff?
yep.
I'm not
That's a
sure.
mint. That's a mint.
I'm telling you. I promise y'all, I'm not showing y'all to impress nobody. I do not care. But I'm telling you that, and Dan, man, back me up. You do not want a custom guy building your house. You need a guy that has one plan, or maybe two. But I want the guy, look, he's built this house over and over and over and over and over. He says, look, this house is going to cost 180 to build. Let's go. That's the guy. If you don't have that guy, do not hire the builder. If they say you can pick from these 4 plans, or I got 3 or 4, don't do it, B. Don't do it. They're gonna
That
burn your
makes
money.
sense.
They're gonna burn through your money. Okay. Uh that was a good question, man. Y'all got me on my
How do you all
soapbox.
feel about the NAR lawsuit? What's your take on it? We covered that already.
We went over that already, yeah. Black August, I appreciate you. Dan, appreciate you. You guys, how often do you guys do this? Every Sunday. Well, no, we don't. We're on Instagram every Sunday. We're not on
We
here, but
we
every
need
one.
to switch it up a little bit, maybe.
You think so?
Yeah.
We got 55 people on here, Dan. I want to talk to you before we leave. I like this is my channel. Can I ask a question? Damn.
Yeah.
So when I went to Invest Fest, 2 months ago. I'm gonna do a video on this, man. I'm getting older, Dan. I get to just grow and see things differently from high level. What can you just talk about the skill set? We're in a system called capitalism, right? I want to ask you, when did you come to the realization that all you're doing is moving capital? For instance, when you buy a house to fix up and sell, you're buying a house, you're taking capital from location A and moving it to location B, which is the seller, fixing it up, and then that capital gets taken back out by an end buyer. I just came to this observation over the weekend that all you did was move capital from a location to a seller, and then
So,
all you did was move it.
so I never looked at it that way. You look at things a whole lot more technical than I do. I just looked at it as like I just get this is what I got to do to make money, right?
It's so
But
weird. It's
I didn't look at it that way until you brought something to my attention about a month ago, and I was actually talking to you about this piece of shit tenant that I'm trying to get rid of now, uh, and you were like, "Oh," and then I was talking to you about another problem we have in Florida where this new law came out that's screwing me up a little bit. I had to sell some property, then use a 1031 to buy other property. It was a pain
yeah.
in the ass. And the crazy part was I wasn't really making any money. I was protecting my profits that I've already made and asset appreciation.
Hmm.
And I was talking to you out of frustration about it, and you said to me, real calm. You remember what you said to me?
Yes, it sounds like to me it's just you're doing wealth management.
Yeah. And when you said it, do you remember I kind of went silent for a couple of seconds?
I do. I thought you
Yeah.
were. Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? This Dan Barrero. What? I mean, you know what? This what the hell you been doing? You do it every day.
Yeah. And then I was like, damn, this guy's right. What am I bitching about? This is wealth management. So I never looked at it that way because I've always looked at it. Okay, this is what I got to do to protect my asset appreciation, or this is what I have to do to increase my asset appreciation, and I just do it. But when you put it to me in that with that one statement, it was like, yeah, this is part of business. It's wealth management.
Hmm.
Uh,
With it's wealth management, and I just I just try as I'm getting older. I'm trying to just look at things from a higher level to help the new people come in because it's not just about buying and selling. It's not just about going to the bank application. So much surface level stuff there that I think people look at real estate. They think that's what it is. And for instance, somebody just wholesaling. I'm like, do you know wholesaling is like a toddler move? I mean, that is like I don't even know if it's a toddler. That is a baby transaction. And some people make careers out of just wholesaling.
this it's not like I said earlier, man. I know wholesalers that are doing 20, 30, 40 deals a month.
Yeah,
They don't have time to go into the long term side. But
yeah,
if you're doing 1 or 2 deals a month, you should be taking that profit money and investing on long-term holds because that's where the real money's at, right?
that's right.
So, but somebody's asking about, if you don't mind, I'm going to read it.
Well,
Very good tip. Thank you. I know you can't predict the future for sure, but do you think real estate value will go up in 2024 and 25? So I just had this just brought back a real interesting conversation that I just remembered as a result of that question. So I have a property in Fifth Avenue in Brooklyn. Property's paid for. I bought the property in 1990. It's in an awesome location, not far from the Barclays Center. And I get a phone call from this realtor who's trying to get me to sell the property because supposedly they have a buyer. And it was, the interest rates were starting to go up. This was a year ago. And they were like, well, if the interest rates continue to go up, this property value is going to go down.
oh,
And I was
really?
like, I said, that's probably true. He says, well, we'll give you 6.5 right now. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not selling it. And I want everyone to know I'm not selling it because one, what am I going to do with the money? Because if I sell it for 6.5, I got to give between New York State, New York City, and the federal government, I'm going to lose 50% of it in taxes. And I don't want to go do a 1031 where I could transfer it to another property because this property is like a fine oil machine. That's how great it's running, right? and I don't have to do much work to keep it like that. So why am I going to go buy something else and have to work just as hard or harder? So I said to him, "You're probably right." And he said, "But you don't care?" I said, "I would care if I intended on selling it next year, but I'm never selling the property. The property's going to go into a trust. My kids are going to get it. They're never going to pay the capital gains on it when they inherit it, because since it goes into a trust, they get the step up value." For those of you that don't understand, that's a long conversation. You have to speak to a tax accountant to understand that. But the point is, I don't care if the property goes down or goes up. What I care about is the cash flow.
Cash flow.
And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I paid $235,000 for that building in 1990.
Wow.
I put $300,000, maybe $400,000 into that building over the years I've owned it. So let's say I got $700,000 into the building. And yes, we've had a lot of ups and downs since 1990 in the economy. Doesn't matter. The property's worth $6.5 million today.
Wow.
So I don't care if the market crashes or doesn't next year, because I'll still collect rent. People still need a place to live.
You know, Dan, I think that takes time to get to that because most people are hustling trying to pay mortgages, man. And in these times right now, it's so weird. I had to remind myself for 2021, 22, the good times are only an opportunity for me to prepare for the bad times. Every day, I'm waking up down, I'm like, you know what? This is not real. Let me go do what I need to do because I know 2004 is coming. I know.
Somebody's asking how to buy a property with tenant in it. I've bought properties with tenants in them. Those are usually the tenants that I end up kicking out, taking to eviction court.
Yeah.
I very rarely take a tenant that I've actually placed in a tenant into court. But when I do buy a property with a tenant in it, I want to see a copy of the lease. I
Might not
want
even
to
be
have,
one.
I want to also have a notarized statement from the landlord stating that they're current with their rent. And I want a certificate of rent confirmation from the tenant, notarized. So what's that say? The tenant is basically stating, this is my current lease. I agree to the lease that's attached to this. This is what I pay per month. This is when the lease ends, and this is my security deposit on hold. So now I have a notarized statement from the tenant. I have a notarized statement from the seller, so that when let's say the tenant chooses to leave, right? Tenant says, no, but I had $1,500 security, not 12. I said, nope, this is what you signed, notarized, and it confirms what's on the lease. Now, I didn't do that in the beginning, and I used to get stiffed all the time. Well, the tenant would say, no, my rent ain't 1,000, my rent's 800. I got no proof, right? And now the seller don't even want to return my call because they got rid of their headache. They don't want nothing
They
to do with me.
gone.
So these are the things you have to get, because when you go to court, you have no leg to stand on unless you have this documentation.
Nope. Who is this? Listen, Dan, knowledge brings responsibility. He who understands creative financing over the next 5 years is going to crush. You're going to crush it. All right, Dan. We've been here for 50 minutes, bro.
Absolutely. Kris, everyone here will be back next week either on Instagram or I say we do both again, man. Do a half an hour and a half an hour.
That sounds good.
Yeah. All right, guys. Next week.
Real
And
quick,
thank you all for being here. Take care, everyone.
we're working on a landlord training, and I got the subject to training. I'll put it in the video description. Dan, when are we gonna start talking about a date on that?
When I could get this done, bro. Like, I just showed it to you before, right?
Let
You know
everybody
what?
see
If you
the
don't mind, I'm going
chapter.
to show it to everyone here if you don't mind. This is something Kris and I are working. Like, I've been working on this here.
Dan's been
This,
doing way more, but I got my stuff already done.
this is literally the outline. We're going to have, I'll tell you, it's going to be 24 chapters. You see that right there, guys? 24
Is that
chapters.
does that include my stuff too, or no?
No, no.
So we got to put. It's probably gonna be 30 something chapters. So we're gonna be doing landlord. What did you decide to name it? You got a name already? I didn't even know the name.
I'm thinking, and I don't want to share. It's going to be the ultimate guide to landlording.
The ultimate guide to landlord. So we didn't really like my first rental.
No,
All right, that's cool. So
only
the ultimate
because I
guide.
think the way we're setting this up, it doesn't matter if you're experienced or inexperienced. You're going to learn so much
The
in this
ultimate
course.
guide to landlording. I think we need to have a sub headline like how to something without losing your button. like,
This is
like
there is no the title is not it's etched in stone yet.
I like it though. The ultimate guide to landlording. How to some collect rent without losing your butt.
Listen, we're going to be covering everything, guys. How to select a tenant, how to build your team, how to build your team, how to vet your attorney, how to vet your realtor, how to vet your property manager, how to vet your contractors. You know, explaining the responsibilities of each, how to find those individuals, right? We're going to be talking about where do you find your tenants? What questions do you ask those tenants? Why do we ask these questions? What, we're going to be, this is going to be so in depth. It's going to be, I could tell you without a doubt, I will bet my right arm, you're never ever going to find a class that's going to teach you how to manage your tenants or properties as well as this, ever.
I agree with that. I've seen Dan Barrera at work. In fact, I spent the night with him in the hotel going over all this stuff. So that's I'm telling y'all. Y'all think I know Dan, my man, but he provides massive value for me in my life. So hopefully he can provide value for you too.
Man,
All right, man.
I'm gonna enjoy this. Yeah. So I don't want you to think I have a. I told Kris earlier, this is the third rewrite on this.
What?
Yeah, the third rewrite. Every time I
All
do it, after I think I got it right, I sleep on it. I come back and read it again. Damn, I don't like this. Let me do this
so
shit again.
look, let me go look at. I gotta get up there, Dan. I'm gonna talk to my wife about coming up there. Is it after Thanksgiving? You got some time the 1st of December?
I got to look on my calendar, bro.
All right. I think it'd be nice to do in Newark. Would be nice. You guys wanted to see Dan? We'll do another lunch and learn in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah, let us know.
All right, y'all. Take care. I'll put the links in the description. Let me go do it in a minute. Peace.
Take care, everyone. Good night.